in this and next year, we'll focus much more on creating bridges between TradFi and DeFi, and also the incoming agent economy. Like one of our biggest theses is that agents are actually the use case that DeFi was waiting for.
Hello and welcome to episode 38 of the Exponential Show. Today, it is the third day of Money 2020 and we have Alex Scheer with us, the founder and CEO of zkMe. Alex, thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
Oh, thanks, Mayank, for having me.
The pleasure is all mine, Alex. So, I think the first thing I should start with is a congratulatory note. So, you participated in and won the startup pitch competition here at Money 2020. So, we'll talk about your experience later in our conversation, but just wanted to express our congratulations to you as well.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a wild couple of days.
In a good way, I'm hoping.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, we'll talk about that experience in more detail and things of that nature. But we'll start with a conversation that, in fact, a question that we ask all our guests, which is, what is your superhero origin story? So, what were the key career milestones and challenges that you faced in your path to doing what you're doing right now?
It was not a very straight path, I would say.
Entrepreneurship rarely is.
True. And I never really originally set out on the path towards entrepreneurship. So to give a little bit of a background, I have a degree in supply chain management and mechanical engineering.
Right.
So very far away from what I'm doing right now. Typical German, right? I wanted to work in the aerospace industry, which I actually did for a small little bit, and then somehow slipped into the automotive industry, where I was working on a very interesting topic, which is supply chain optimization.
Interesting.
So big automotive networks, like a typical OEM has maybe 400 suppliers.
I can imagine.
Spread out through the world, and they need to somehow optimize the transportation network. Like how do you get 10,000 single pieces of an engine, for example, into the assembly line, right?
Interesting.
There's like a lot of complex mathematics behind that.
I'm sure.
And that's what I was working on for almost like the first decade of my career. That took me all around the world. Like I've seen plants in South America, in China, in the United States, and within this industry, I discovered maybe a talent or an affinity for product management, like software product management,
right?
And the company that I was working for gave me the opportunity to run a software department out of China, which I did until COVID hit. And then typical COVID thoughts, what if I'm my own boss? What if I try to, I'm still young enough to try to be my own boss, try to really make a change in the world. And at that time, I was reading incoming regulations, as one does during COVID, like nighttime reading. I was reading the European Commission's regulation on markets and crypto assets, MiCA, which was one of those foundational regulations for regulating virtual assets in the European Union. And one of the first recitals of this regulation actually said, if you have a non-sufficiently decentralized financial service, so a financial service that is provided through centralized means like a front end, through distribution channels that are available to the public, you also have to fulfill same risk, same regulations.
I see.
So let's say you provide a DeFi lending protocol, if that DeFi lending protocol is available online through a front end, you still have to do things like KYCing the wallets that are coming in.
Right.
So I saw an opportunity in which we could build compliance primitives, like KYC, AML compliance primitives that are using Web3 technology, so decentralization components, but still fulfill existing regulatory environments. That was the advent, like the birth of the idea of building what we call a zk KYC solution, like zero knowledge KYC solution that is self-sovereign, like any person that KYCs owns their own data.
Okay.
And is able to attest to that data on chain on a smart contract.
Okay.
But the attestation, like the output, fulfills all of the requirements necessary to be, for example, FATF compliant for like simple due diligence of users coming in.
Interesting. So that's quite a fascinating journey. So just more on the traditional side of mechanical engineering, then going into aerospace, then even sort of the automotive industry. It still is a kind of, quote unquote, a more traditional route, especially in your part of the world. And then sort of the COVID kind of allowing you to hit that reset button.
Yeah, just like trying to broaden my horizons, and then like suddenly seeing this opportunity, and it turned out to be a real niche and a real demand in the market.
Yeah, that's great to know, and perhaps, in fact, that's a great way to segue into our next question, which is the problems that you're solving with zkMe. So you mentioned that you saw an opportunity for establishing an organization and solving some problems. Can you tell us more about the problem itself and the approach that zkMe is trying to solve, more specifically in the context of the fact that when it comes to financial regulation, it's not standardized across different countries. Even in some cases, the US, for example, it might be different states as well. So it's very heterogeneous when it comes to regulation. So how have you navigated that, and how are you solving for those problems?
Yeah, so even though originally the idea was very much on solving for compliance on chain, the niche has now grown into just being identity for autonomous finance. Like whenever like an algorithm, an AI agent, a smart contract, like anything that acts like in a financial sense in your name, we provide the identity backbone for that. And that identity backbone can take many different shapes. So it could be, as I mentioned previously, an AML verification just to give like a proof of white hands, like I'm not sanctioned, I'm over 18, and I'm allowed to engage in this financial service. But it could also take forms that are broader. So for example, the bridging of credit scores, or the ability for an AI agent to be context aware of your existing portfolio, like anything that touches identity in the broadest sense, under the umbrella of autonomous finance.
Interesting. And I've heard this word a lot the last couple of days, is interoperability. So could you maybe talk a bit about, since you're sort of working both on the DeFi side, but also even perhaps integrating with the more quote unquote traditional finance side. So how have you been able to sort of adapt to the different needs of these seemingly similar, but in practice very different verticals?
Yeah, let me think how to answer that. So I think the beauty of the technology that we use, and maybe I can take a step back just to explain how it works, right? Like there's a lot of buzzwords happening, like autonomous finance, self-sovereign identity, zero knowledge proofs. The fundamental difference between how we approach identity and how identity has been approached in the past is that we give control of the identity data back to the data holder. So if you, for example, you own a passport, the passport has been cryptographically signed by a government, it's in your control. You physically have the passport. And whenever, in a traditional sense, like with a traditional IDV provider, identity provider, you onboard onto a financial service, you are actually delegating the ownership of that data to a third party.
Right.
So, for example, there's these big IDV providers, KYC providers that take a copy of your passport and store it in a centralized database.
Got it.
What we do is we remove that middleman and say, we give you
Right.
an electronic copy of your passport data so that you can then selectively disclose, like according to the requirements of the specific financial service,
Right.
what is required by that financial service. So your original question, right, was how do you solve for like different requirements?
Right.
The fulfillment of the different requirements is actually done by the user themselves.
I see.
So we give like a tool set, and this tool set is flexible enough to generate different outputs. So for one financial service, it might be, I need a full plain text information of all of your
Right.
KYC data plus your proof of funds. So a very traditional output.
Right.
For example, for opening a brokerage account. And on the other extreme, for example, if you want to engage in a futures contract on a smart contract, the output might be just a yes or no of, yes, this user fulfills all of the eligibility without disclosing any private data. So it allows for all of this like gray area between
I
not
see.
disclosing anything and
Right.
disclosing everything.
I see. So yeah. So even in that sense, the control then lies with the individual.
Correct.
Okay.
That's the fundamental difference in how we approach
Understood.
identity.
Yeah, that's great learning for me as well. Now, speaking of individuals, we live in now a world where individuals might not necessarily come in human form.
Yeah, true.
So we've I'm not exaggerating. I've heard the word agentic AI hundreds of times in the last 2 days. So could you maybe tell us about how your solution applies to agents as entities, and if that's something that is fundamentally different from how it works for humans, or is it similar? Could you sort of explain to me how that works?
Yeah, we realized that the approach that we've been taking for the verification of identities on smart contracts perfectly fits the concept of agents acting in the name of a UBO. Okay. So if you have an agent that is acting in your name, how do you ensure that that agent has access to all of your identity data?
Right.
So what we do is we use the same tech in order not for you to disclose the selective information that is required by the financial service, but actually have an agent do exactly the same thing.
Interesting. Okay.
So, for example, we already have use cases live at the moment where we have trading agents that have access to a brokerage API of their owner,
Okay.
which is highly sensitive information, right? Like if that API key gets lost,
A lot of things can go wrong.
exactly, like someone might drain the account.
Right.
So what we do is we store these API keys as credentials
I see.
that the agent has access to. And whenever the agent needs to execute a trade, they would take that credential, put it into a secure session. So a session means it's separated from the model,
Got it.
and only this black box session would decrypt the API key. So it's
see.
like an identity / secrets management for agents
Right.
that allows for the agent to act just like a human
I see.
without all of the downsides of a typical agent. Because the biggest downside at the moment of agents is that any information that goes into an agent, you must assume leaked.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard some nightmare stories about people experimenting with Claudebot already. So
Yeah, no, that's
I know exactly what you mean. So yeah, so thanks for that context. Now, so you talked about obviously the problem that you're solving, and that is kind of universally applicable, but there are other both macro and micro nuances to different regions you work in, different countries you work in. So are there any key trends that you see that are very Hong Kong specific or Bangkok specific, or more generally Southeast Asia specific, that you feel are either good opportunities or challenges that you need to overcome?
Yeah, I think there's two things that come in mind immediately. So one is a clear regulatory arbitrage opportunity where some regulators are much more active on providing frameworks for agentic economies.
Okay.
Like, for example, Hong Kong has just issued a stablecoin regime in which every Hong Kong dollar denominated stablecoin is immediately tied to an identity.
I see.
So that would allow for, in my opinion, a much broader adoption of agents that act with Hong Kong dollar denominated stablecoins because they are easier to accept from a traditional stablecoin, from a traditional financial service provider. So that's one thing, like regulatory arbitrage. And then there's also a very clear difference in agent adoption between the East and the West. So if you look at current agent power users, more than 80% are in China or Chinese-speaking communities.
80%?
Yes.
Oh, wow,
crazy.
that's a big number. I mean, it's like pretty much all of them are in China or Chinese-speaking country at this point.
Yeah.
So I do not know that. Okay.
Like I've seen it firsthand. I went to Shenzhen a couple of weeks ago, and I saw people lining up in front of like a Tencent headquarters to get free agent setups.
Wow.
Like there's a different mindset in adoption of new technologies. I think in the East in general.
Okay.
And I believe we're going to notice that in the upcoming years, where there's going to be like a financial renaissance in the East.
I see.
For services that will not be available in the West.
Oh, that's fascinating to hear, but kind of validates the fact that you are building here in the East. It's interesting context. Now, speaking of the East, we are here in Bangkok at Money 2020, and obviously we spoke about your experience with the startup pitching competition. So could you maybe, to our listeners who are not here today, if you could maybe tell them about your experience at Money 2020 in general and what that competition was and how it panned out for you the last couple of days and maybe the first half of today as well.
Yeah, I think this is my second Money 2020. I went to a Money 2020 in the United States, I think last year. And this is the first time coming to an event like this one where the theme is very clear, right? Like there's a very clear theme of stablecoin adoption plus stablecoin as a catalyst for agent economy.
Right.
Just like you, I've been hearing agentic AI like at least 100 times over the last couple of days. One of the positive developments that I've been noticing is that we don't see the schism between traditional finance and DeFi anymore. Like I feel like this is the first conference where like traditional finance is much more embracing of Web3 technologies like stablecoins, for example.
That's a very interesting observation. Yeah. And do you think it's more of a regional thing, or it's just that the industry as a whole is maturing?
I think the industry as a whole is maturing. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting to know.
Like paradoxically, Web3 as a community suffering at the moment through like negative price action actually allows for adoption of Web3 technologies in different contexts.
I see what you mean. Okay. Yeah, that's a good perspective to have. Could you maybe tell us about your experience with the startup pitch competition and how you got in and sort of how that panned out over the last couple of days?
Yeah, so originally we were not planning on participating. We were invited to participate following zkMe winning the pitch competition in consensus in Hong Kong.
Interesting.
2 months ago.
Congrats on that as well.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, a very, very interesting pitch competition. Like the first pitch competition where I feel like most of the startups that were participating, I think we were like 16 or so, out of apparently 300 that applied.
Wow.
we're very focused on the topic of RegTech and compliance.
Okay.
There seems to be some kind of trend
Yes,
in the
that also I
development.
noticed.
And yeah, no, super talented projects from all over the world. A couple that we might actually be working together in the future. So
Awesome. Yeah, I mean that's arguably even the better outcome, right? So
True.
yes, obviously winning a competition it helps your cause, helps your morale, but if you find good partners along the way through those competitions, learn more about what your peers are doing, I think that's the biggest win to come out of all of this.
No, absolutely. Like it was a very clear learning opportunity, networking opportunity, and yeah, I think in the end we feel validated in the direction that we're working on, like building identity and compliance primitives for agents seems to be like something that the industry is asking for.
Right.
Like maybe not having immediate monetization demand for, but
I'm sure.
like we feel like the industry is moving in that direction.
Interesting. Yeah, so it's something to keep a close eye on in that case. Now, so we've learned about the problems you're solving, some key industry trends, your experience at Money 2020. So these are obviously things that you've learned along the way. But as an entrepreneur myself, as somebody who has the privilege to interview a lot of entrepreneurs, I know that it is not always an easy journey.
Yep.
So are there any challenges that you faced that come to mind where perhaps you felt that at 3 a.m. someday that why am I doing what I'm doing kind of feelings, and how you've overcome them and what have those challenges taught you?
Yeah, like I think I was a little bit unprepared for the journey itself. Like I was very naive in thinking that the biggest challenge is the tech expertise and the drive and maybe the niche.
Right.
But in the end, like I think I found out that another big challenge is also just messaging and packaging of very complex topics into easy messages,
Right.
which is I think is not my strongest. Like it's not one of my strengths.
Right.
So that's one thing that I've been struggling with over the last couple of years, just how to take a concept that is technically very complex, like zero knowledge proofs, like self-sovereign identity, and package it into something that is easy for people and customers to understand.
I'm sure, but I think the fact that you are participating at events like these, having conversations, talking to non-finance people, explaining what you do. So I think all of that sort of builds muscle memory to do sort of better explain your work to people who might not understand the technicalities of it.
For
so
sure.
yes, I'm glad you have embarked on that journey. Now that brings us to the final question of the day, Alex, which is what's next? So you've come this far. It's like you said, it's been an up and down journey, but what are the next key milestones that you're working towards? Any new projects up your sleeve? Anything that you would like to share with us, our audience as well?
Yeah. So I think the immediate thing is that we're currently scaling the agent part of the identity stack.
Okay.
So our original go-to-market was in providing compliance and underwriting in Web3 native use cases.
Okay.
So things like launchpads, token distribution platforms, DeFi platforms. That was our core market for the last 2 years. In this and next year, we'll focus much more on creating bridges between TradFi and DeFi, and also the incoming agent economy. Like one of our biggest thesis is that agents are actually the use case that DeFi was waiting for. Like everyone is saying DeFi is dead, which in a certain aspect it is. Like it's not growing from a user perspective, like amount of users active on DeFi protocols. But I believe one of the main reasons is because the entry hurdles are still too high for non-experts to start using decentralized finance products.
Right.
And I very strongly believe we'll see, again, a re-emergence of DeFi use cases with an increased adoption of agents.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it, right? So it's almost as if DeFi was a solution for which a problem arrived much later. So,
Yeah, I would frame it slightly differently. I would frame it as DeFi turned out to be a power user
right.
product, where the entry hurdles, especially from a knowledge perspective, were too high for the average consumer or the average investor to get involved with.
I see.
But all of that complexity is going to be abstracted through agents. So the original promise of DeFi, of banking the unbanked, or like
Right.
providing complex financial products to the masses,
Right.
I very strongly believe is going to come true with agents. So that's going to be a big focus of zkMe. Like in the next 1.5 years, we'll help both DeFi protocols and traditional financial service providers to become agent ready. So both on the discovery side, like if I have a financial product, how do I make sure that agents can find my product and consume my product? And then also on the outgoing side, like if I have a front end that has users, how can I enhance the user journey or extend the user journey by providing additional financial services that I'm not directly providing? So
Interesting.
we
Yeah.
believe in both things will grow.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, there's, I'm sure different use cases, different types of users as well. So I think it's better to hedge your bets as well for you as an organization and see how things unfold. And that is something that now that we know each other, I'll be following more closely as well and learning
Thank
more
you.
about your world. So, Alex, that brings us to the end of our conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time. I congratulate you on what you've achieved so far, not just at the competition, but I understand that building something, it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes a lot more. So, congratulations on
No,
that.
thank you so much.
We're rooting for you to do bigger, better things, and we'll hopefully keep seeing you in Bangkok more often.
No, absolutely. See you at next Money 2020.
Hopefully before that, but sure. If not before that, then yes, at the next May 2020. Thanks for your time, Alex.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody who tuned in. And if you like the content, make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.